Welcome back to our Halloween special part 2. This time around, we will be emphasizing on console games that are Halloween themed. There will be 10 games, 1 stinker, 1 bonus and a montage of honorable mentions. It was rather difficult having to truncate the list to a mere 11 games, and I am pretty sure I will most likely miss your favorite Halloween themed game. With that in mind, I do hope you understand that I can't list every console Halloween themed games here, or this video would be over an hour long. Also note that there will be 1 game per franchise, meaning there won't be 2 Splatterhouse games in the main list. However, you may see a second game of the same franchise in the honorable mention segment. With that said, I hope you will enjoy this spook-tacular episode of Top 10 Halloween-themed console games. Let's ascertain this issue, shall we? I've heard about this game for many years, but never really played Monster Party. I saw ads for this game plastered all over Nintendo Power. Only just now I was able to sit down and play this game, for purpose of video capture. Honestly, this game turned out to be pretty fun. If you don't know the lore of this game, it's actually pretty dark for a game that's aimed for children. Apparently, a cancelled Japanese prototype of this game was released back in 2011 and was being sold off at Yahoo Japan auction for a super low price of 483,000 yen, which in USD is roughly $3,303 in 2022 currency. On 2014, the cancelled, unreleased Japanese version was leaked online, probably as a ROM dump or a source code. Setting all the controversies aside, this is a pretty fun game with a good hit detection. Your attack distance is very short when you're using the bat, but you can power up and transform into a monster for a period of time that can spit out projectiles from its mouth. If you have never played this game, you should give this one a try. This game is a westernization of a Mega Drive game, Magical Hat no Batobi Tabo Deiboken. Rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it? I guess the aforementioned game was too Japanese for us and decided to give it a complete makeover. 2 games very similar to Decap Attack was made for the NES and the Sega Master System under Kid Cool and Psycho Fox monikers. You assume the role of Chuck D. Head, a headless mummy who is out to stop the evil demon called Max D. Cap, who has returned to conquer the surface world. It's a Mario-type platformer where you can stomp on enemy characters. There is another form of attack where you get to obtain a severed skull and throws it to enemies. The projectile comes back after traveling for a little bit or when it hits a flat surface. It's a pretty enjoyable game for what it's worth. If you're a purist and have a Sega Genesis lying around, you should pick up the cartridge. The lowest I've seen loose is around $12 and complete would be little less than $50. If you're like me, a cheap bastard, then just get a Fusion emulator and emulate the damn thing. There's something strange in the neighborhood. Who you gonna call? Heat man. Sorry. I had to throw that in there. Okay. That was a bit cringe. This game was made by Compile, one of the best premier shooter game developers out there. There's a definite scarcity of good Ghostbusters video games. Activision had a hand in them and they turned out to be a heaping pile of shit. Thankfully, this game isn't anything like the ones that were made by Activision. Yes, there are modern Ghostbusters games like the most recent Ghostbusters, Spirits Unleashed, but at least for me, the best Ghostbusters game that's not polygon graphics is this one for the Genesis. If you're into a good old-fashioned platforming goodness, this game might just fit the bill. Splatterhouse franchise was seminally a side-scroller beat-em-up game. I have covered both Splatterhouse 1 and 2 in my previous videos, and while I love the simple destroy shit mechanics, the third offering deviates from the typical Splatterhouse bi-dimensional display. It's more tantamount to a traditional brawler like Double Dragon and Final Fight. While this didn't break any grounds or reinvent any wheels, this is a solid effort by Namco. This game isn't as nearly as iconic or memorable as its predecessors, but much fun can be had with this game. You can't pull off the jump slide move on this version. Rick once again goes back to the West Mansion to save not only Jennifer but their son, David. You traverse through 6 different stages. You need to fight off all the monsters and ghoulies before you can advance to the next room. This is the first Splatterhouse game to have multiple endings, depending on whether certain criterias are met. There are 4 possible endings, giving this game a good replay value. Give this game a try. You should try this game using either a Fusion or RetroArch emulators. Both will give you a nice solid 60 frames per second. This was surprisingly a good game. I have never heard of this game until I was watching a YouTube channel for best NES games. This is a total hidden gem. It's a pretty straightforward platformer but has a really good hit detection, and the typical 8-bit Konami chiptune I thought sounded fantastic. I thought I knew all Konami NES games including Ultra games, but this one came to me as rather a pleasant surprise. A brand new sealed copy of this game will cost you about $8,000. Yeah. No. I don't think so. If you have a need for a monster in my pocket fix, get yourself one of myriad of NES emulators and get this game ROM. A quick Google search will yield good download sites. Just be sure to use a VPN and equip yourself well with antivirus program, adblock and malware protection well equipped before you go to download pages. Jack Brothers is a game that was released to the ill-fated Virtual Boy. This is one of the most expensive game out there, weighing in a few bucks shy of $3,500, complete. Even the loose versions are well over $1,000. Now I know what I can do with a capital like that, and it's not purchasing Jack Brothers. Now don't get me wrong. I think it's a fantastic puzzle action game. I don't think it's worth a good sizable down payment of a decent Lexus. This game was developed by Atlus, the same company that was responsible for producing the Megami Tensei franchise. Hell, even the mascot of Atlus is Jack Frost, the main protagonist of this game. I had a really fun time capturing this game. It's too bad that this game was exclusive only to that turd of a system, the Virtual Boy. It would be nice if Atlus makes a remake of this awesome gem to other formats with full color and not this ugly shades of red and black. If you have never played the game, for God's sakes, don't buy this game. Save your money and download this game and emulate it using RetroArch. You will really like the gameplay with its simple mechanics, cutesy graphics, and charming characters. You know that one notoriously annoying and difficult enemy character from the Ghost and Goblins franchise that seemed to kill you every time you encounter it? I think you know exactly which one I am talking about. He is called the Red Reamer, or his westernized name is Firebrand. Apparently, he has his own franchise of games that came out exclusive to the Nintendo consoles. One such game is called Demon's Crest. It's a sequel to the Gargoyle's Quest series, making this a third game in the franchise. His standard abilities are projectile fireball that shoots from his mouth and levitation. As Firebrand traverses through 6 different stages, he will gain power-ups by obtaining crests, which will aid him in his quest to defeat Phalanx, the antagonist of Demon's Crest. This is a really great game. Even though this game was only released for the Super NES, the absolutely gorgeous graphics, complex power-up system and gameplay makes you feel like you're playing a well-crafted CP system game. If you have never played this game, I absolutely highly recommend this game. The highest CIB copy I saw was $600 to $80 loose. Just emulate the damn thing using either RetroArch or SNES 9X. If you have played games like Prince of Persia, Flashback, or Blackthorn, then you will get a gist of what kind of game Nosferatu is. Nosferatu was developed by a small company in Japan called Seita Corporation. Seita made some noteworthy games such as 8 Eyes for the NES and that egregiously awful Wizard of Oz platforming game for the Super NES. Seita didn't have a good portfolio under their belt, but for me at least, this game was gold. You control a young man called Kyle, and it's your job to rescue your girlfriend Erin, who was abducted by the evil vampire, Nosferatu. Using the Prince of Persia control scheme, you punch, slide, tackle and mantle your way through Nosferatu's castle. The fight mechanic is really well done, but the overall control may be a bit frustrating. Game publications such as EGM and GamePro gave this an average score, saying the controls are very frustrating and no checkpoint or save feature, but venerating the graphics and music. While I do agree with most of their sentiments, and this game will give you minor frustration, it's a really fun game. If you enjoyed the first 2 Prince of Persia games and had a fun time playing Blackthorn, you will definitely enjoy this game. As I can't stress this enough, you should emulate and save money, unless you're a hardcore collector. This is an awesome sequel to the #1 game on my last video. Do you remember what game it was? Super Ghouls and Ghost is direct-to-home console iteration of the Ghost and Goblins franchise. While I didn't understand why Capcom decided to release this game directly to consoles, I believe this game turned out absolutely great using the Super NES hardware. It would have been so awesome if this game was released in the arcades using Capcom's awesome CP System 2 hardware. Super Ghouls and Ghosts is a really well-made game, with beautiful graphics, ambient music, really tight controls and an on-point hit detection. However, this game was touted as one of the most difficult games in gaming history. Overall, there have been mixed reviews of this game. If you want this pup's opinion, I think this is my second favorite G&G game ever, after my beloved Ghouls and Ghosts. As good as the game was, this game was oddly exclusive to the Nintendo consoles for some period of time, including the Super NES and the Game Boy Advance. Much later on, this game was released for the PS2 and PSP as part of the Capcom Classics collection. I recommend playing this game, if you haven't already.
Welcome to bonus day.
I have been meaning to cover this game on my last segment, but I've completely forgotten about it. So here it is, the bonus game. It's Night Slashers by Data East. This game resembles that of Final Fight or a typical non-linear beat-em-up game. There was only one port for the home console, and that was for the Nintendo Switch, but prior to the Nintendo Switch port, the only way you can play this game was to either find an arcade cabinet, get a JAMA board and hook it up to a Super Gun or emulate it. You know what my preference is. If you still don't know, your punishment will be to watch all my old videos and give each one a like and subscribe, if you haven't yet. Don't worry, I don't have much. It's easy. Before I reveal the best game in this list, if you thought my content was worthy of your entertainment and would like to see future contents like this, please consider subscribing. While you're at it, hit the like and notification bell to be notified of future contents. I post weekly. And now, without further ado, the number 1 spot. The super moniker on this game is well deserved, for this is one of my absolute favorite games ever. I had a hard time choosing which version of Castlevania I wanted to put on this spot. Others included Symphony of the Night and Rondo of Blood. I know all you keyboard warriors will start typing away, but I just like this game a little bit better than the aforementioned. It was a really tough decision. They say this is a remake of the first Castlevania game, but for me, I consider this a legit sequel to the legendary franchise. The 8-way whipping is a nice addition, and pressing either shoulder button to discharge a secondary weapon was a great welcomed addition. Sadly, that feature was taken out for all subsequent 2D Castlevania games. This game was one of handful of launch title games for the Super NES when it came out in 1991 in North America. There are many other versions of Castlevania out there, but this one gives me so much nostalgia. I remember when I first played this game. I rented this game for the very first time and I've instantly fallen in love with it. I think I might have incurred some late fee because I didn't return the game until the following week. Got into trouble by my parents, but it was well worth it. If you get a chance to play this game, you should emulate it. You will definitely not regret it. Did I hit the mark? Do you agree with the list? Are there some ghoulish home console games you know I have missed? I was planning on adding psychological thriller games on this list, like Silent Hill, Fatal Frame, but I decided to stick to traditional jump scares, typical Halloween terrors like monsters, zombies, and such. That will be a list on their own in a future episode. Tell me in the comments if I missed anything. Do you have any questions, comments, or just simply have an outburst that need to be cathartically promulgated? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this content and thought it was worthy of your subscription, I implore you to consider subscribing. While you're at it, give that like button a nice smash and tick that bell for notification to get notified of future contents. It takes a lot of work producing these videos and your support is greatly appreciated. This is the only way my itty whittle bitty channel can grow. Please enjoy your Halloween responsibly. If you're planning on drinking, please be responsible and take a designated driver with you. I sincerely wish you a safe and fun Halloween. Now, I am going to take my editor for a walk. He's been holding his pee for hours on end, trying to finish this episode. With that said, this is Momo bidding you a fond sayonara. Take care, all of you.